Thank you very much. So I'm Bilge Baytekin from Bilkent University in Ankara, Turkey. And today I'm going to talk you shortly about our work on self-regulation in plant robots. We are a chemistry group, so it will be a talk on physical and chemical control mechanisms. Just like Professor Maeda, we have been using the non-equilibrium chemical systems to make functional materials, many different materials like sensors that can be used in sensors or for catalytic activity. But then we also thought that we could use them in the soft robotics projects because there's a lot of room with non-equilibrium if you think about how the soft robots should be controlled. The basic thing that I'm going to show today is just confined in these three examples, but all of the three examples are built on the notion of non-equilibrium states. In chemistry or also in actuation of soft robots, usually we have a switch which let us control the system with two stable modes. And to change between these stable modes, we have to use two different and opposing input. And sometimes this is hard to control, and you have to definitely intervene in the control externally. So we said that maybe the system can behave autonomously if we use just a single input in an on-off fashion and using this non-equilibrium dissipative states. So in this case, we have just one stable state when the input is off, and you can trigger the system to get to the non-equilibrium dissipative state by input of energy. For example, for all these systems, it's light or sunlight. Okay, so all of this is actually to get to the embodied intelligence in the soft robotics, the plant robots. The living plants, of course, they're so complicated. They are ruled by biochemical feedback. There are so many different chemical reactions tied to each other. It's impossible to 100% replicate the systems. Our systems, on the contrary, they're on the other end. They are very simple. They are working with very simple logic, with material feedback. And I guess they display sort of at least the concept of embodied intelligence. Okay, so let's go through them. Again, as I mentioned, we are using not a switch. We are not using the switches. We are using the dissipative states and just one input. Okay, so we started the plant robotics work long ago, and when we wanted to do some, plant replicates or some bio-inspired systems, artificial systems, we figured out that there are so many different motions of plants, so many behaviors, and we picked the easiest to replicate, and these are working with light, heliotropism, phototropism, or the nastic versions of these movements. And basically, if you don't know what they are, heliotropism is just the tracking of the sun elevation during the day. And then nyctinasty is just opening of the leaves under sunlight, and during the night, they close. Right, so if we would, again, I would like to emphasize that this complexity, if we would do this just like the plants do, we would be building a very complex system with different compartmentalization compartments with different functions. So this would be taking a lot of time. Although, I mean, in chemistry, you can also use different chemical networks, and but still, we were aiming at the simplest architectures that we could get. So we started with thinking about just using some shape memory alloys and some geometry tricks to get this similar motion in these systems that we are building. So the initial systems that we built were very far from chemistry. They had plastic 3D printed bodies and these shape memory nitinol alloys, as I mentioned. And we had the two systems, the heliotropic and nictinastic systems together. And we were also trying to figure out whether this artificial heliotropism would give an extra advantage for the harvesting of solar light. And we figured out that yes, it does, and very similar to the natural plants which use this heliotropism to increase the efficiency of photosynthesis, the artificial ones, like the ones that we built, are also increased. They have increased photocurrent generation. Right, so you can see this very simple system. It's basically working on this the shrinkage of the nitinol alloys. Of course, we have a good alignment of the lens, so we optimize this alignment to let the sunlight get focused on the alloy. And let me show you also the nictinastic version. So you can see this one has another set of these springs for opening of the leaves. And again, heliotropism turning towards the light. And the leaves close as we just turn off the light, and it will soon go back to its original position. So you see, we are not doing anything. There is no external control, no external battery, electronics, or so. It's just working on its own, and it's just built by the geometry and a couple of alloys, springs. Okay, the embodied intelligence actually comes from the fact that this optomechanical element here can concentrate the light to actuate the different portions of the spring at different elevations of the sun. I don't want to go into the detail, but the simple thing is that with the high elevation of the sun, we are actuating only a shorter portion of the ring by heating this portion only. And with the lower elevation of the sun, you see that the light, it goes through all of these parts and activates the whole spring, and the head turns more. So this is just regulated by light, and it is a sort of a metastable position, you can say, because as the spring heats and it contracts, the light falls onto the middle element, which has no spring part. And then, of course, the spring cools down, and it's sort of an equilibrium between the two. And this is how we can get the elevation control. So it's a steady, but still a metastable state. Okay, so since we are chemists, we wanted to incorporate more chemistry into this, and we turned our attention to the gel actuators, for which we can tune the chemistry and incorporate more function. And the hydrogels, yeah, they are very versatile. And in this case, of course, we have to change the actuation mechanism. And in this case, we use transpiration, which is simply the dehydration of the gel upon light input or heat input. And of course, they are cheaper, and we can make many of them very simply in a couple of minutes. Okay, here is how we make them. We use laser cutter for the initial experiments, but then we use just the scissors, and we engraved, but you don't need, you just need a crease. So just putting the gel and letting it evaporate under light, quickly evaporate under light, it will make the gel dehydrated, and the contraction of the paper into the folded state. Okay, surprisingly, these folded papers were working very reversibly and very efficiently. And then we went into the next step in making a paper plant. Just like the previous version, we had the muscle pair for the heliotropism and the muscle pair for the nyctinasty, leaf opening and closing. And the system just looked like this. So it's a single input. There is no feedback here, but just to show you how the gels evaporate and they shrink and the paper is folding upon this evaporation. I think this is a good example. So leaves open and the plant turns towards the light source. The trick is with the feedback we can have, as you can see, I mean, the dehydration causes the contraction, but then the light falls on the leaves and the leaves can also bend and open, casting a shadow, just like this, on the gel. So if you just tie this to a water reservoir, for example, a soil, an artificial or natural soil, the roots will suck water from soil and rehydrate the gel. So the plant will just move in the reverse direction and it will get upright. And similar to the previous version with nitinol alloys, it will stabilize itself in the equilibrium position. So opening, closing, opening, closing, and so on, or tracking, non-tracking, and so on. So this was very interesting, and we were quite surprised how well it worked. After a couple of cycles, it was still okay. And we tried to make different architectures with geometrical tricks and also origami architectures. I'm also very much interested in origami, the opening and closing, and all of these, if you tie them to the reservoir, you would get them running in a reversible, cyclic and autonomous way. But this was not enough. As I mentioned, it's very important that we incorporated some chemistry, and we thought that the easiest way to get to this idea is to put some salts in the gel. We could as well change the chemistry of the gel because there are many different types of gels and you can tune into the chemistry, but using simple and available materials was more interesting for us, so that we just tried this initially with some table salt in the gel. And we have seen that we can tune in and regulate the speed of actuation, which is very much different than the gel just with water. And we can also make different parts with different salt concentrations and different salts, different ions in the gel, and get anisotropic bending of the materials. And I'll just show you, because we have limited time, that they have very different behavior with different ions. We can have pure gel or gel on a paper. That also gives a different result. And this was very hard to solve chemically, but finally we have an answer for that. And as I mentioned, we can also get anisotropic behavior from the same geometrical shape with different ions incorporated in the gel at different locations. We can get multiple outputs upon illumination. And yeah, I think this is all what I can share in a nutshell. And I thank our funding agencies and of course to the people who are doing the work, Pedram, who is the Smart ITM fellow and who has done the most of the work that I displayed today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bilge, for a very interesting talk. Then we move to the last speaker of today,